highlighting the part no one talks about. Have you ever worked so hard to build something, a business, a dream, a family plan, a whole new life, and then years later, it feels like the world just moved on and buried it? Like you poured everything into it. You had the vision. You had the plan. You thought, this is going to be the thing people remember me for. And then one day, it's underwater. Literally. Because hidden under Beaver Lake in northwest Arkansas is the remains of a forgotten resort town called Monte Ne, a place that once had giant log hotels, a railroad, a gondola, a bank, a post office, a swimming pool, and a dream so big that its founder eventually tried to build a pyramid to warn future civilizations that America was going to collapse. And here's the part most people don't realize. This wasn't some random little village that got flooded by a lake. This was supposed to be one of the greatest resort destinations in America. And today, most people drive over to Beaver Lake to fish, swim, boat, or take pictures without realizing that beneath the water is the remains of a man's empire, his political movement, his failed presidential dream, and maybe one of the strangest monuments ever planned in Arkansas history. So the question is, why would someone build a luxury resort in the Ozarks, then try to turn it into a warning for the end of civilization? And how did all of it end up under Beaver Lake? That's Monte Ne, and this is the part no one talks about. If you're someone who's into hidden history, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, when most people think about Beaver Lake, they think about clear water, cliffs, boats, summer weekends, maybe a little northwest Arkansas getaway. But here's the thing. Before Beaver Lake was Beaver Lake, parts of that valley had a completely different identity. It was called Monte Ne, and Monte Ne wasn't just a place. It was a sales pitch. It was a health resort. It was a utopian dream. It was a political stage. And eventually, it became a half-finished time capsule for a future world that never came. The founder was William Hope Harvey, better known as Coin Harvey. And that nickname matters because Harvey became famous in the 1890s for writing about money, silver, gold, debt, and the economic system. He was connected to the free silver movement and was an advisor on economic issues to William Jennings Bryan during Bryan's 1896 presidential run. Later, Harvey founded Monte Ne and even became the Liberty Party's 1932 nominee for president. So this guy wasn't just some random man with a hotel idea. He was a national figure. He had political influence. He had money. He had confidence. And maybe most importantly, he had this almost dangerous belief that if he could imagine something, he could build it. That is where Monte Ne starts. And this is where it gets really interesting. Around 1900, Harvey looked at the Ozarks near Rogers, Arkansas, and saw something most people did not see. He saw clean spring water. He saw mountain air. He saw valleys and hills. He saw a place that could be marketed as health, beauty, escape, and status. And that's important because in the early 1900s, health resorts were a big deal. People didn't vacation the way we do now. There was no Airbnb, no TikTok travel guide, no Google reviews, no top 10 hidden gems in Arkansas video telling you where to go. If you wanted to attract people, you had to create the myth yourself. And Harvey understood marketing. He knew that people weren't just buying a room. They were buying a story. Monte Ne was supposed to feel like stepping into a different world. Because this wasn't just a hotel. This was an attempt to manufacture a destination out of nowhere. Think about it like someone today buying raw land in the middle of nowhere and saying, I'm going to build a Disney World of wellness retreats. Except it's 1901. The roads are rough. Cars are not normal yet. Travel is hard. And you try to convince people from around the country to come to northwest Arkansas. So Harvey had to solve a very basic problem. How do you get people there? And his answer was crazy. He built a railroad. Here's what most people don't realize. Monte Ne wasn't hidden because it was small. Monte Ne became hidden because the world changed around it. Harvey built a roughly 5-mile railroad spur from the Frisco line at Lowell to Monte Ne, and it opened in 1902. He even used an imported Italian gondola to move guests across the water, helping create the famous idea that Monte Ne was the only place in America where the gondola meets the train. That line is brilliant. The gondola meets the train. That's not just transportation. That's branding. That's like saying, come to Arkansas, but make it Venice. And honestly, that's the kind of line that would still work today as a TikTok hook. Imagine the video. This Arkansas resort had a railroad, a gondola, and a pyramid, and now it's underwater. That's Monte Ne. But the same thing that made it impressive also made it fragile. Because Harvey was not just building a resort. He was building an entire fantasy. And fantasies are expensive. To understand Monte Ne, you have to understand the mindset of the early 1900s. America was changing fast. Railroads were transforming towns. Health tourism was popular. People believed certain waters, springs, climates, and landscapes could improve your body. And the Ozarks had that perfect mystical reputation. Clean air, pure springs, mountain scenery, a feeling of being removed from industrial city life. So Monte Ne wasn't just selling vacation. It was selling renewal. Almost like saying, come here and become a better version of yourself. That's why places like this worked. People wanted a reset. And honestly, that part is still relatable. Because what do people do now? They go to the mountains. They go to the lake. They book a cabin. They say, I just need to get away. Same human need, different century. Monte Ne was built on that same emotional driver. People wanted beauty, health, escape, and a little bit of status. But here's where the story starts to turn. Because Harvey did not just want Monte Ne to be nice. He wanted it to matter. He wanted it to prove something. And that's a different level of ambition. William Hope Harvey was not a normal resort developer. He was a writer, a political thinker, a businessman, a promoter, and, depending on who you ask, either a visionary or a man who believed too much in his own ideas. His nickname Coin came from his famous book Coin's Financial School, which argued for free silver and criticized the gold standard. That book made him nationally known during the economic debates of the 1890s. So when Harvey built Monte Ne, he wasn't just building a business. He was building a platform. And this is important because later, when the resort dream starts fading, he doesn't just walk away. He pivots, but not like a normal entrepreneur pivots. He goes from resort owner to political candidate to civilization is doomed pyramid builder. And that is why Monte Ne is one of the strangest hidden histories in Arkansas. Look, a normal failed resort story goes like this. Man builds hotel. Hotel fails. Man sells property. The end. Monte Ne is not that story. Monte Ne is. Man builds resort. Resort struggles. Man decides civilization is collapsing. Man tries to build a 130-foot pyramid to warn the future. Then the lake covers almost everything. That's why this place sticks in your head. Because it doesn't just feel like history. It feels like a mystery novel Arkansas accidentally flooded. Monte Ne attracted visitors, but it struggled financially. That's one of the important parts of the story. Big dreams can bring attention. But attention is not the same as sustainability. The Monte Ne Railroad struggled. The resort had expensive infrastructure, and Harvey's ambitions kept expanding. By the 1920s, major pieces of the original business dream were weakening. The railroad line had been sold and abandoned by 1920, and the Monte Ne Bank closed. Hotel properties were also eventually sold or foreclosed. Now, you might be thinking, if it attracted visitors from across the country, how did it fail? Here's the thing. A place can be famous and still not be profitable. That's true today, too. A restaurant can be packed and still lose money. A YouTube video can get views and still not build a business. A resort can be talked about everywhere and still drown in expenses. Monte Ne was ambitious, but ambition costs money. The railroad cost money. The hotels cost money. Maintenance cost money. Marketing cost money. And Harvey was the type of person who didn't shrink the dream when money got tight. He made the dream bigger. That's when the pyramid idea begins. This is where it gets really interesting. Harvey became convinced that civilization was headed for collapse. And instead of just writing about it, he wanted to build something that would survive it. His plan was to build a massive pyramid or obelisk-type monument that would contain books and artifacts from modern civilization, so that future generations could discover it after society fell apart. Sources describe his planned pyramid as around 130 feet tall, intended as a kind of time capsule for the future. Think about that. This man built a resort to attract people to the Ozarks. And he tried to build a monument for people who might exist after America was gone. That is a wild psychological shift. And yet, it makes sense when you understand Harvey. He was always thinking in big systems. Money systems, political systems, civilization itself. Monte Ne was never just a vacation spot in his mind. It became a stage for his worldview. Now, here's where the story gets even more strange. The pyramid was never completed, but the base of it became an amphitheater. And the amphitheater is one of the most legendary parts of Monte Ne. It had concrete seating, an unusual design, and was dedicated in the late 1920s. Reports describe its seating capacity as somewhere around 500 to 1,000 people. It became the foundation of Harvey's larger pyramid plan. Imagine standing there in 1928. You're in Northwest Arkansas. You're not in New York. You're not in Chicago. You're not in Washington, D.C. You're in the Ozarks, watching a man unveil the foundation for a giant pyramid that is supposed to speak to people after civilization collapses. That's not normal history. That's hidden history. And remember the opening question. How did a luxury resort become an underwater warning about civilization? This is how. Monte Ne started as a dream for tourists, then became a dream for politics, then became a dream for the future after collapse. And then Beaver Lake turned it into a dream you can only see when the water drops. But before the lake, before the ruins, before the underwater mystery, Monte Ne had one more strange chapter. Politics. In 1931, Monte Ne became the site of the only presidential convention ever held in Arkansas, when Harvey's Liberty Party gathered there. Harvey would become the Liberty Party nominee for president in the 1932 election. That fact alone is crazy. The only presidential convention ever held in Arkansas was at Monte Ne, a resort town near Rogers, founded by a man nicknamed Coin, who wanted to build a pyramid that eventually ended up under Beaver Lake. You cannot make that up. And this is where the story reveals something deeper. Harvey believed Monte Ne was more than a resort. It was the physical center of his ideas. He brought people there not just to relax, but to participate in a vision. That is why places matter, because a place can become a symbol. Monte Ne symbolized everything Harvey believed America could be, and everything he feared America would become. After Harvey died in 1936, Monte Ne continued in different forms for a while. Some buildings were reused. Parts of the resort became other businesses or facilities. But the original dream was gone. Then came the project that would erase most of it from the surface. Beaver Lake. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers built Beaver Dam on the White River and Beaver Lake was created in the 1960s for flood control, hydroelectric power, water supply, and recreation. Work on Beaver Dam began in 1960, and Beaver Lake reached full height in 1966. The lake covered most of Monte Ne, and that is the moment the story becomes visually unforgettable. Because Monte Ne doesn't just disappear, it gets submerged. The hotels, foundations, ruins, and amphitheater become part of the lake's hidden landscape. Most of the time, you don't see it. But when the water drops low enough, pieces of Monte Ne come back. The amphitheater, the retaining walls, the old foundations. It's like the lake remembers. And that is the part that triggers people's imagination. Because there's something powerful about a lost place that reappears only under certain conditions. It feels like a secret. It feels like Arkansas has a ghost town under the water. And in a way, it does. For decades, one of the most visible remains was the tower from Oklahoma Row. But even that changed recently. In 2023, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers announced preservation and removal work at Monte Ne, and the remaining historic resort structure was demolished due to safety concerns, vandalism, and deterioration. Portions were preserved through coordination with museums and preservation groups. That part matters because hidden history is not frozen. It changes. Sometimes it disappears while we're still alive. A place can be standing 1 year, gone the next. And that's why documenting these stories matters. Because Monte Ne is not just a story about old buildings. It's a reminder that history can be lost twice. First, when people forget it. Second, when the physical evidence disappears. Today, Monte Ne is still listed on the National Register of Historic Places, added in 1978 for its association with Harvey and its unusual architecture and engineering. But most of what made Monte Ne famous is now either gone, underwater, or visible only during low lake levels. That's the mystery. That's the hook. That's the reason people still talk about it. Because it's not just ruins. It's ruins with a story. So why does Monte Ne matter? Because it captures something deeply American. The belief that you can build a dream from nothing. The belief that a place can change your life. The belief that your ideas are so important they should outlive you. And the danger of believing so hard in your own vision that you can't see when the world is moving another direction. Harvey was early to tourism. He understood branding. He understood destination building. He understood that people want experiences, not just rooms. In that sense, he was ahead of his time. But he also overreached. He kept building, kept imagining, kept pushing. And eventually, the dream became too heavy. Monte Ne is historically significant because it connects Arkansas tourism, national political movements, early 20th century health resort culture, transportation history, and one of the strangest unfinished monuments in the region. It was not just a flooded town. It was a resort, a political stage, and a monument project tied directly to William Hope Coin Harvey. And here's what most people don't realize. Monte Ne is not only a story about failure. It's a story about scale. Most people fail small. Harvey failed big. And because he failed big, we're still talking about him. That's the weird paradox of Monte Ne. If he had built a normal little resort, nobody would care. If he had just made some money and retired, there would be no mystery. But because he tried to build something unforgettable, because he tried to create a resort, a movement, and a pyramid, the ruins still haunt Beaver Lake. And I want to know what you think. Was Coin Harvey a visionary? Was he just too ambitious? Or was he one of those people who could see something coming, but explained it in a way that sounded crazy to everyone around him? Because that's the uncomfortable part of history. Sometimes the line between genius and obsession is only visible after the ending. And Monte Ne's ending is underwater. So the next time you're at Beaver Lake, and you see the boats, the cliffs, the clear water, the quiet coves, remember this. You're not just looking at a lake. You're looking at a flooded dream. Under that water was once a place where a man tried to bring tourists by train and gondola. A place where people came for health, beauty, and escape. A place that hosted the only presidential convention ever held in Arkansas. A place where a man tried to build a pyramid because he thought civilization was going to collapse. And now, most people will never know it was there. That is Monte Ne, the Arkansas resort that became a warning. The dream that became ruins. The town Beaver Lake swallowed. And the hidden history most people drive right past. If you want more stories like this, forgotten towns, strange Arkansas history, lost places, and the parts no one talks about, subscribe, hit the like button, and comment Monte Ne if you want a part 2 on the pyramid, the underwater amphitheater, and the rumors of what might still be buried beneath Beaver Lake.
If you want to see more stories like this, follow us for more.